couldn't see was the years of experience written into her DNA, the countless hours she'd spent working with military dogs in some of the most dangerous places on Earth. And then it happened. The officer unclipped the lead. The dog launched forward with all the explosive power of a trained attack animal. Jaws wide, every instinct screaming for the takedown. This should have been the moment where everything went horribly wrong, where another tragic story made the morning headlines. Instead, something extraordinary occurred. She dropped to one knee, shielding her baby with one arm whilst raising her free hand in a gesture so subtle, so precise that the officers almost missed it. It wasn't surrender, it was command. It's pure, instinctive command that came from years of handling animals far more dangerous than this one. The dog stopped, mid-lip. Just ... stopped. It stood there, confusion written all over its face, body trembling with the conflict between following its handler's orders and responding to something deeper, something it recognized on a level the officers couldn't understand. You should have seen their faces. The smugness evaporated instantly, replaced by bewilderment and then anger. Because their weapon of choice, their guarantee of compliance, was now standing perfectly still, staring at this woman like she was the most interesting thing in the world. The baby had gone quiet too, as if sensing that something important was happening. And in that strange moment of silence, with rain hammering on car roofs and blue lights still flashing, power shifted. The dynamic changed completely. She whispered something under her breath, not in English, but in the same language she'd used during her service overseas. The same tone that had once guided military dogs through minefields in hostile territory. And the German shepherd's ears pricked up immediately, head tilting as if trying to remember something from a dream. The officers were having none of it. One of them shouted for backup, whilst another yanked a second dog from the patrol car, this one even more aggressive than the first. They were determined to regain control, to put this woman back in what they saw as her rightful place. But she was already 3 steps ahead of them, because here est what they did and understand. She'd spent years working with dogs trained to detect explosives in war zones, animals that could smell fear and death from miles away. She'd guided them through situations where one wrong move meant everyone died. These police dogs, well-trained as they were nothing compared to what she'd handled before. As the second dog charged towards her, she adjusted her stance slightly, voice carrying across the rain-soaked street with absolute authority. Not shouting, not panicking, just speaking with the kind of confidence that comes from knowing exactly what you were doing. Both animals stopped dead in their tracks. It was like watching magic happen in real time. These highly trained police dogs, bred and conditioned to follow orders without question, were now responding to a woman they'd never met before, as if she was their commanding officer. The first dog actually sat down in the rain, looking up at her with something approaching respect. The second one whined softly, torn between the officer tugging at its lead and this strange woman who spoke in a language it somehow understood. And that's when the officers realized they were completely out of their depth. One of them reached for his radio, voice cracking slightly as he called for additional units. Another pulled out his baton, slamming it against the car bonnet with a sharp crack that echoed through the night. They were scared now, though they'd never admit it, because their entire approach was built on intimidation. And intimidation only works when the other person is afraid. She wasn't afraid anymore. Standing there in the pouring rain, baby cradled safely in her arms, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years: complete control. It's not the kind of control that comes from weapons or authority, but the kind that comes from knowledge, experience, and unshakable confidence in your own abilities. The dogs were now positioned between her and the officers, not aggressively, but protectively. They recognized something in her that their handlers could unsee: the mark of a true leader. Someone who'd earned respect rather than demanded it. She took a step forward, then another. And with each step, the officers backed away slightly, their carefully constructed authority crumbling like sand in the rain. "You don't know me," she said quietly, her voice carrying clearly despite the storm, "but you'll remember this night." And she was right, because what happened on that rain-soaked street became more than just a confrontation between police and citizen. It became a moment when hidden strength revealed itself, when the underestimated showed exactly what they were capable of. She walked away that night with her head held high and her baby safe in her arms. the dogs escorting her like a royal guard until she was well clear of the flashing lights and shouted threats. And as the officers stood there in the rain, trying to process what they'd just witnessed, one thing became crystal clear. They'd completely misjudged who they were dealing with. What if I told you that sometimes the person you least expect to fight back is the one with the most dangerous skills? Picture this. A young mom, soaking wet in the rain, holding her newborn baby close to her chest, whilst police officers circle her like vultures. They've just unleashed their attack dogs on her, thinking she's helpless, defenseless, just another easy target. But here's what they didn't know. She wasn't just any mom. She was a former military dog handler who spent years in combat zones commanding some of the most lethal canines on Earth. And what happened next? Well, it's about to blow your mind. This isn't your typical David versus Goliath story. This is something far more extraordinary. It's about a woman who turned the tables when the system tried to crush her spirit. And trust me, once you hear what unfolded that night, you'll never look at strength the same way again. It all kicked off on one of those miserable British evenings where the rain hammers down like bullets. You know the type. The kind of night where you would unput your worst enemy out in it. She was walking through what seemed like a perfectly ordinary neighborhood. The sort of place where everyone knows everyone else's business. Where net curtains twitch whenever a stranger walks by. But tonight felt different. Really different. She could sense the stares burning into her back, could hear the whispered conversations that stopped the moment she got too close. Her tiny baby was wrapped up tight against the cold, making those soft little sounds that newborns make when they're not quite settled. And that's when she saw the headlights creeping up behind her. Now here's the thing about instincts. They don't lie. And hers were screaming danger. The first police car pulled up slowly, deliberately, like a predator stalking its prey. Then another appeared from the opposite direction. She was boxed in, trapped, with nowhere to run even if she'd wanted to. Her body went into that automatic mode, the same response she'd had during her military days when incoming fire was detected. Every muscle tensed, every sense heightened. But this wasn't some foreign battlefield. This was supposed to be home, safe territory. Yet here she was, feeling like she was back in a war zone. The officers stepped out with that swagger that comes with authority. Boots splashing through puddles, hands already hovering over their utility belts. Their faces told the whole story before they'd even opened their mouths. She was guilty of something in their eyes, though exactly what remained unclear. She tried to speak, tried to explain that she was just walking home with her baby. But before the words could form properly, one of the officers gestured towards the patrol car. That's when her blood ran cold, because she could hear it. That low, menacing growl that she knew all too well. The rear door opened, and out stepped a German shepherd, all muscle and teeth and barely contained aggression. Its eyes locked onto her immediately, the way a predator focuses on wounded prey. The officer holding the lead had that smug expression people get when they think they've got all the power. But here's where it gets interesting. Because whilst her heart was pounding and her baby was starting to fuss against her chest, something else was happening in her mind. Memories were flooding back. Desert heat, helicopter rotors barked commands in foreign languages. She'd been in situations like this before, just from the other side. The rain was getting heavier now, turning the whole scene into something from a nightmare. Water dripped from the dog's muzzle as it strained against its lead, desperate to follow its training. The officers were shouting instructions at her. Get on the ground. Put the baby down. Stop resisting. Though she wasn't actually resisting anything yet. To them, she was just another problem to be solved with intimidation and force. They saw a young black woman with a baby, someone who'd surely crumble under pressure.